Hey everyone, and welcome. You know that initial thrill of building brand new things with infrastructure as code? It's awesome. But what happens when you get really, really good at it and things start to scale? All of a sudden, you're not just a builder anymore, you're more like a city planner for this massive, sprawling digital world. And the challenge totally shifts from creating stuff to, well, controlling it. So today, we're going to dive into how Terraform Enterprise 1.2 is handing you the keys to master all that complexity.
I mean, does this question hit home? It's something that keeps a ton of platform and DevOps teams up at night, right? You start out with this pristine, clean slate, but then, over time, manual changes creep in. Different teams do their own thing. Undocumented resources pop up out of nowhere. And what was once a perfectly planned city starts to feel like total uncontrolled sprawl. That is the core problem we are tackling today.
So, just to make sure we're all on the same page, let's talk terms. Greenfield, that's the dream, right? Brand new projects, everything is planned, everything is standardized. But the reality for pretty much all of us is brownfield. That's the existing, sometimes chaotic, and often totally unmanaged infrastructure that's, already running the entire business. It's not some monster you have to go slay. It's a complex ecosystem that you just need to understand and, well, tame. And that is the real challenge of scale.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to kick things off with the scaling challenge itself. Then we'll get into the good stuff, how TCFE 1.2 helps you tame all that brownfield mess. After that, we'll see how to get total visibility with the new Explorer, check out some smarter ops updates, and then we'll wrap it all up with the really important details you've got to know for the upgrade. So let's jump in.
As your organization gets bigger, the focus it always shifts. It stops being just about spinning up the next server or the next database. The real work becomes managing, governing, and standardizing this huge landscape of resources you already own. It's about bringing everything under one consistent, modern pipeline. So that brings us to our first major topic, and it's a big one. How in the world do you get a handle on all those pre-existing, unmanaged cloud resources? This has, for a long time, been one of the biggest headaches in standardizing infrastructure, and it's where TIFI 1.2 really starts to make a difference.
Let's be honest, the old way was painful. I mean, really painful. You had to write these super complex custom scripts just to figure out what was even out there. And then came the really tedious part of manually mapping every single one of those resource IDs. The whole process meant you had to be an expert in HCL, that's HashiCorp's configuration language, which created this huge bottleneck and was a massive barrier for a lot of teams.
But with Terraform Enterprise 1.2, that all changes. The new way to bring in your brownfield resources is completely 100% code-free. Let's take a look at what that actually means. What you're getting is this visual browse and select interface. So instead of writing a single line of code, you can now use simple metadata queries right inside the UI. Just imagine searching for every single EC2 instance that's tagged with, say, owner finance, and then with just a couple of clicks, importing all of them directly into a managed workspace. This is an absolute game changer. It just shatters the barrier to entry so application teams can now get involved, and it massively speeds up your journey from cloud chaos to a governed, standardized system. Just think of the engineering hours, maybe even days, that this is going to save. Okay, so you're starting to get your arms around all these resources. That's a huge step, but how do you actually see everything in one place? How do you create that single source of truth that spans all of your workspaces? Well, this is where the newly generally available Terraform Explorer comes into play. This quote from the docs it absolutely nails it. Explorer isn't just some other dashboard. It's built from the ground up to be your definitive system of record for your entire infrastructure state, as managed by Terraform. It's the map to your whole digital city. And a chart like this gives you a fantastic idea of the kind of at-a-glance insight you get. You can instantly see a full breakdown of your workspace health. You can see slices for things like version compliance, or workspaces that need to be hooked up to a version control system like Git, or even ones that are failing validation. It's all right there, giving you a crystal clear, prioritized to-do list of what needs your attention first. So the headline here is that Explorer is now GA in Terraform Enterprise, and it brings some serious benefits to the table. You can immediately boost your security posture by hunting down any workspaces running on old, deprecated versions. And for all those audit requests, you can streamline your reporting with new CSV exports and a public API. But here's my favorite part. It all runs on a secondary database. And what that means is all this powerful reporting and querying will never, ever slow down the performance of your core Terraform runs. That's huge. Okay, So we've got visibility. Now let's talk about control. TFE 1.2 also rolls out some great features that boost reliability and just smooth out the friction in your day-to-day work, making your daily operations a whole lot smarter and stronger. A perfect example of this is the new health checks. The old endpoints, they were a little too broad. It was kind of hard for a load balancer to know if one specific node was getting sick or if the whole system had a problem. But these new readiness and diagnostic endpoints, they are incredibly precise. They let your load balancer isolate a degraded node and route traffic away from it in seconds, not minutes, which can drastically slash any potential downtime.
And we've also got 2 more fantastic Day 2 operations now available right in the UI. First, Terraform actions are fully supported, which lets you kick off workflows and other tools directly from your providers. Second, and this is just a wonderful quality of life improvement, you can now trigger a replace resource run straight from the UI. So think about it. A VM crashes. Instead of having to drop to the command line and run a targeted apply, you can now just click a button in the dashboard to fix it. It's just a much simpler, more intuitive way to work.
All right, we've covered the what and the why. Let's wrap this up with the final and most crucial info for anyone out there who's getting ready to upgrade to Terraform Enterprise 1.2. Okay, so you'll want to pay close attention here. First, and this is a big one, support for PostgreSQL 13 has been completely removed. You've got to be on a newer version before you upgrade. Second, those legacy health check endpoints we just talked about, they're now deprecated, so make sure you update your monitoring scripts and your load balancers. On the new feature side of things, there's now optional MD5 checksum validation for S3 compatible storage and a new central place to find compatibility info, which should really simplify your upgrade planning. And that pretty much brings us to the end. TFE 1.2 is a really significant step forward. It gives you the visibility and the control you need to manage infrastructure at a massive scale, turning that brownfield chaos into a governed, standardized asset. It's really all about moving away from just reacting to problems and toward proactively managing your entire infrastructure lifecycle, which, of course, leaves us with one final thought. Now that you can see and control everything, what are you going to build next? Thanks so much for joining me.